to the Modern Assyrian program on ANB SAT. My name is Carmen Morad. We are thrilled today to have an interview, a conversation with a Gold Star father, Michael Anderson Sr. Welcome.
Thank you, Carmen. Thank you for having me.
I want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule. It is important to have this conversation to raise awareness on the importance of honoring and saluting those who were killed in action and gave the ultimate price.
Yes, ma'am.
Today we're going to honor and salute Michael D. Anderson Jr., Corporal Michael D. Anderson Jr., your late son.
United States Marine Corps.
It is so important, Mike, for us to have this conversation, to raise awareness on the importance, not just on Memorial Day, but every day is Memorial Day to you.
Every day is Memorial Day. Yes, ma'am.
Let's talk about the importance of service. Let's talk about the importance of how to honor those who have fought for the freedoms that we enjoy in our country. As you know, Mike, the Assyrian community's ancestral homeland is Iraq. Your son perished in Fallujah on December 11, 2004.
That's correct.
Please inform us and educate us on his service, on what it meant for him to go there and why he served.
Well, Mike had joined the Marine Corps right out of high school as an 18-year-old. Actually, he joined when he was 17. I had to sign for him. He went to the early entry program, but as he got out of high school at 18 years of age, he was in boot camp when the planes hit the towers in 2001. When he got out of the Marine Corps, when he graduated boot camp, went directly into infantry training and became a United States Marine and proudly served. In 2004, they knew that the battle for Fallujah was brewing. Mike was actually, in conversation, was actually looking forward to being part of that, and his unit was called up to go to Fallujah and serve and be part of that battle. And as it turns out, it's been a very storied battle in United States Marine Corps history. It's in the categories of Chosin and Iwo Jima, the Guadalcanal, some of the big Marine Corps battles, Way City, where the house-to-house fighting was just extremely intense. So I'm very proud of him for that.
We are also very proud of him and how he served and what he stood for. We often talk about how we as members of the community, when we meet a Gold Star father, I'm not even sure if many people know what that means, Mike. How do you go up to someone? What do you say? How do we honor and salute not only you as the father of someone who perished giving his life to fight for the freedoms that we enjoy? What is the appropriate way of what do you do and what do you say?
Well, the first thing, I must agree with you. When people at times will introduce me to their friends or whatever, they'll say, Mike Anderson, he's a Gold Star father. And when people say, oh, well, congratulations, and they want to shake your hand. So right off, you know that they do not know what a Gold Star parent or a Gold Star father is. Sometimes you kind of tend to want to educate them, and sometimes you just let it go, and then let the person that did the introduction maybe educate them at a later time, depending on the situation. But probably the simplest thing to say is, I'm sorry for your loss. One of the worst things to say is, oh, I know how you feel. No, you don't know how I feel. And it's just a common phrase, a nicety maybe. But yeah, just, I'm sorry for your loss. Those simple words mean the world because that's an acknowledgement that you understand. It's important.
It absolutely is. And it's the same as when you come in contact and meet someone in uniform, that they are actively serving as well. Mike, talk to us about, and I know our viewers, as you know, Assyrians come from different regions of the Middle East. And right now, Iraq, especially northern Iraq, what is happening there? You were there before ISIS surfaced. It was still Al-Qaeda at the time. Talk to us a little bit about your experience, what you saw there, any contact that you had with the Christian minorities and other minorities who are truly suffering through the challenges of everyday life?
It was an interesting time for me. It was in October and November of 2006, still under heavy combat operations. And as a civilian, I managed to find my way into Iraq. Met with several of the people in the communities. Met with Prime Minister Barzani at the time. Went to several of the different palaces. But for me, it was a real need to go into the same region, breathe some of the same air, and meet the very people that my son unselfishly fought and died for. He gave his young life. He was 21 years of age. So for me to have that interaction through interpreters, of course, to hug, to shake hands, to have these personal interactions, I look at it like my family, me included, of course. We are now a part of that region. We are a part of Iraq. My son's blood is soaked into that soil. That's my blood. So now I am a part of that community.
Yes. And you know, Mike, there aren't enough words to say of Memorial Day is every day to you, meaning that you live with this every day. There are members of the Assyrian community who have lost loved ones. You and I had a conversation about the experiences of the atrocities that go on in that region,
Correct.
in that country.
Yeah, are still going on today.
Are still going on as you and I are speaking.
Yeah.
The Assyrian nation and community is very much embedded into honoring those who give the ultimate sacrifice, who give their lives. We call it Martyrs' Day. When you give your life, when you are perished, standing up for what you believe in, is it your way of life, your ethnicity, your faith? And in that region, as you just mentioned, it is an ongoing battle. So tell us about what you know today as someone very active and involved.
Part of the region that I visited, I spent, I believe, as I recall, it was a day and a half in the Anfal region where the ethnic cleansing had taken place. And I recall the geography and the topography vividly. You know, there was just how all this atrocity had taken place and all these many lives had been taken over a maniacal dictatorship. It was just very sad. And to go into, I'll never forget going into one specific concentration camp, former concentration camp, where Saddam's army would come in at night and take the men, the teens that were of military age. And here I'm in this camp, and there's older women, there's children, middle-aged teenagers and whatnot, women, but there's no men. And they had come in and removed them from their homes, remove the men and the teens from their homes, but displace the families as well and put them in these camps. These were dirt roads with sewage running down the middle of the street. There was no electricity. I mean, there may be a single light bulb hanging from a cord. I remember there was no glass in the windows. If there was, that was kind of more of an upscale mud home. But the women, mothers, holding pictures, black and white or color pictures of their loved ones, whether it be their husbands or their sons that were removed, taken from them, kidnapped, and they've never seen them again. They don't know what happened to them. Well, through history, we know what happened to them, but they've never been found. Their remains have never been found. So to have that feeling of not knowing, I can't imagine that. I mean, you have the hope that they're going to return home someday. They're going to find their way back because you don't know what happened. That was pretty profound. That was moving for me. And again, that really shed a lot of light as to why my son felt the need to go and fight for an oppressed people, fight for their liberties, fight for their freedoms, to allow them a different lifestyle, to be able to work and worship as they chose. Obviously, we know it's a Muslim country, but Christians have been persecuted for many, many years. And it's important to fight and stand for what is right. And my son knew that.
Yes, absolutely. And this is why it's so important for Michael's story to be told and to be made aware to all Assyrians watching this program, Mike, because the Assyrian nation is unfortunately and historically very familiar with what you just described, going back to the 1915 genocide, which we recently were included with our Armenian and Greek brothers and sisters, the genocide that went on in 1915, and the denial of the genocide. But also with the Assyrian community in Simele, as we call it, in 1933, where an entire village was destroyed and burned. So everything that you just mentioned with the former concentration camp is all signs of ethnic cleansing.
Certainly.
It is a definition of genocide where systemically a certain race or geno is eliminated. So for heroes and for individuals such as Michael to go in and so unselfishly fight for these oppressed and discriminated members, it is honorable, to say the least. And it is so important for our community, for members of the Assyrian community that come from that region to know that they could be meeting a Gold Star father such as Mike sitting right here, and how important it is to say thank you or to say sorry for your loss. And Mike, what I would like to do, we recently spoke with the American Legion in Turlock. We talked about the importance of Memorial Day, what it means, how it used to be called Decorations Day, from the Civil War in this country, which was very bloody and
It was a mess, yeah.
it was very nasty. So how do we honor and salute? Not just on Memorial Day, but Memorial Day has been designated by Congress for this particular day. But the awareness goes on. We need to be informed. What are the activities that we can take part in? Is it just displaying the flag? Is it going to the cemetery? Is it reaching out to a Gold Star family, for example? What do you recommend that those who are watching this program, and perhaps this is the first time they're hearing about a Gold Star father or a parent?
So typically Memorial Day for many is the beginning of summer. Camping, barbecues, swimming. I think there's some confusion at times with Veterans Day, which is 11 November, versus Memorial Day, which is the last weekend of the month in May. They're two separate things. Veterans Day, we honor and we have parades. For instance, there's not really parades on Memorial Day, if you notice. There are ceremonies at cemeteries where, in some cases, our children, our loved ones are buried due to war. So Memorial Day is just that. It's a day to memorialize them, memorialize our military that have lost their lives, killed in battle through many wars. Where again, Veterans Day is a complete separate deal with parades and different ways of doing things. So Memorial Day, yeah, you should hang your American flag. You should hang your flag proudly out in front of your house or your business. It's a holiday. Granted, it's a 3-day weekend. It's the beginning of summer, but there's plenty of summer. If at all possible, you should attend a memorial service at your local cemetery. They're all around. I've been to ones at Arlington. I've been to ones locally at pretty much every cemetery in my area. I've traveled to several and spoke at several. It has a special meaning to the parents and the families that have lost a loved one, whether it be a grandparent or somebody that served in some of the previous conflicts, World War II, Vietnam, Korea. Those are notable events, and it's very important to recognize and appreciate their service and their sacrifice. It's huge. You mentioned earlier the ultimate sacrifice. That's the ultimate sacrifice of the warrior. The families, we pay a premium sacrifice, and it's something that never goes away. We live with it every day. We're proud of our children. We're proud of our loved ones that sacrificed and went abroad to whatever theater it may have been. But it's important to remember them. We talk about never forget. You see bumper stickers. It's a slogan. Never forget is much more than a slogan. To myself and my family, never forget means just that. It's not something I'm looking to rename the Golden Gate Bridge after my son, but at the same time, I'm proud of my son. I want to talk about them, say their names, remember them. Just remember them. The worst thing that we fear is forgetting. That's important.
Thank you. I would like to ask you about locally here. We know that Michael grew up here.
Mm-hmm.
He was only 21. He only was on this earth for 21 years. But tell us about him, about what we should all know about this young man, what he did, where he went to school, and now after serving his country and giving the ultimate sacrifice, what are some of the things that are being done in his honor?
Well, Mike didn't have to join the military. He chose to. It was completely by choice. We don't come from a military family. We don't have a record of service. Blonde-haired, blue-eyed, California boy, skateboarded, surfed, raced motorcycles, raced bicycles. Had a lot going for him. Had girlfriends, had a lot of friends. But again, chose to serve this country, serve this nation. I forgot where we were going with this.
Where you went to school?
Oh, Mike was schooled locally. Right out of high school, chose to join the military and be part of something bigger than himself. And again, at the time, we were in major turmoil. 9/11 had just happened, and he wanted to go defend and protect those that couldn't do it themselves. He worked on and off in between deployments, in between going during high school. So he always had a job. He was always busy. Just a good kid. Wasn't real academic, but had a good work ethic, had a good family, had a good core about him. Coming from a hardworking Okie family, my parents came here from the Dust Bowl days, literally. So yeah, there's something to be said for that. When less than 1% of this nation serves in our military, who is that 1%? Who is that 1% that chooses to wear the cloth of this nation and go abroad and defend others? My son was one of them. Proud of him, very proud of him.
There's a lot of honor in your voice, and we have to remember for those who volunteer, there's no draft.
Correct.
These are individuals that are so taken by their duty to serve, and as you said, to protect those who cannot protect themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Mike, let's talk about the things that have been done and are being worked on to honor Michael's memory.
Well, coming from a motorcycle community, including Mike Jr., we elected to have a motorcycle ride in May. May is Military Appreciation Month. It was Mike Jr.'s birthday. Of course, Memorial Day is in May, so we've done this every year, and the numbers have grown to where it's almost unmanageable. Anytime you get 450 to 500 folks on motorcycles in one spot, all trying to get to another spot, you could imagine the activity. 2 years ago, we took the event to Castle Air Force Base. We had an F-15 Eagle fly in, dedicated to the city of Modesto, along with the mayor and the police chief and several law enforcement personnel aboard. We took the ride down there. The aircraft flies in, put the seal of the city of Modesto on there. Now there's an aircraft flying around with the city of Modesto seal on it in honor of my son. There is an F-18 Super Hornet, one of our premier fighters, that flies around with Corporal Michael D. Anderson Jr., KIA Fallujah, on the coveted area of the cockpit where the pilot's name goes. That's a big deal. So here's this currently Super Hornet flying around in country, out changing the geography and the topography of maybe Iraq, Syria, and Afghanistan, with my son's name on it. That's important. It keeps him in the fight, keeps him part of it. The Tracy Airport, we just renamed or named, let's say, the Pilot's Lounge. Different transient pilots fly in from different areas and they need a place to kind of sit, relax, have a cup of coffee, prepare for the next leg of their journey, so they can come into the Corporal Michael D. Anderson Jr. Pilot's Lounge. It's a combined effort. It's also named with Lance Corporal Brandon Dewey, who's a native of Tracy. So it's a combined effort, both Marines, both young men that sacrificed their young lives in Iraq. So we're proud of that. There's many things to remember, and just things kind of continue to manifest. Even this conversation, again, we talk about never forget. This is important that we never forget, and airings like this to you, the public, now you know who Corporal Michael D. Anderson Jr. is.
Absolutely, and we will remember him. And also, Mike, what I would like to do is also thank you for all you do.
I'm just a dad. I'm just a regular guy.
You are a Gold Star dad. You
Not by
also,
choice.
Not by choice, but this is your life now, and I know you go above and beyond to fulfill this responsibility that is yours now.
Yes, ma'am.
You travel quite a bit. Tell us about some of the experiences and the events that you have taken part in, especially with the Navy SEALs.
Well, just as you mentioned, I am a Gold Star father, and it's not by choice, but I have a life membership in a club that nobody wants to join, nobody wants to be a part of. But I have a life membership paid for with the blood of my only son. So with that, I engage. I mean, what are my choices? Yeah, and in my world, you have two choices. In my mind, you have two choices. One is to sit on the couch, wither away, not do anything, or one is to pick up the cross, where in my case, where my son was forced to leave it and carry it forward, to keep moving forward. Awareness is a key. Respect. And for other military members, you just mentioned this past Saturday night, I was in Philadelphia. I had the opportunity to talk about Mike Jr., to talk about Gold Stars, and introduce Rob O'Neill from SEAL Team 6. Interesting gentleman. We had a great conversation both before and after. He is the gentleman that, in my speak, put 2 rounds in the forehead of Osama bin Laden in Abbottabad, Pakistan. The guy's a hero in my world, and many others as well. He should be. So just different functions, different opportunities to meet with, met President Trump a couple of times. I'll be with him again in June, upcoming. Gosh, I mean, the list goes on and on. I don't really like to brag, and I'm not going to. But again, it's just that wherewithal to carry the torch forward, to bear that cross. And at times it goes unnoticed, and I'm not a guy that wears it on my sleeve, but at times there is acknowledgement, and I'm ready to talk about my son to anybody that wants to listen. Proud of him.
We are too, Mike. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us. Thank you for informing and educating us and our viewers on the importance of saluting and honoring those who have been killed in action, and for remembering Mike Jr., who is from our town here locally, but the world needs to know about him. So thank you again for sharing your story, for sharing Michael's story.
Thank you for allowing me to. If there's one thing I might add when we talk about veterans, whether you see someone in uniform or you see somebody wearing, a veteran hat of any of the branches, thank them. Walk up to them and thank them for their service. If you feel so inclined, reach out and shake their hand, but certainly thank them for their service. It's important. Without those members that have paved the way in past conflict, including current conflict, we're allowed to live in the freedoms that we have today and the liberties to live, work, worship as we please in a free nation defended by brave heroes. So I think it's important to thank them.
Absolutely. Freedom is not free.
Freedom is not free. There's a huge price to pay.
Absolutely. And it is important for all of our viewers, for members of the Assyrian community in particular, who come from those regions, who know the price of freedom. And here in this country, in a community that has embraced us so well, it is important for us to step up and contribute and give back and pay back. And one way we can do that is by honoring those who have been killed in action and saluting them on designated days, but also, as you mentioned, every opportunity that we have that we can honor those who are in uniform as well,
And not just on Veterans Day, every day.
every day.
Yeah, whether it be the airport, at the mall, wherever you may be, I reach out consistently and thank those that have chosen to wear the cloth of this nation and protect us. It's important.
Absolutely. It is extremely important. I want to thank you again in closing, Mike, to share this time with us, to share your story, and
Thank you,
to
Carmen.
once again remember Michael. And this is his picture. We honor him, we remember him, and we will never forget him. And it is important for all of us to remember and to go up to someone who has this important burden, which is they live with this every day, as Mike said. Every day is Memorial Day. Thank you again. I'd like to shake your hand.
Thank you.
And thank you for everything that you do to raise awareness and to give us the opportunity to raise awareness again on the importance of service, honor to this country.
There are superheroes and there are real heroes. The boy right there is the face of today's warfighter. He's a real hero. So thank you for watching and listening to us.
Thank you so much, Mike. This concludes our interview with the Gold Star father, Mike Anderson Sr.